Hey guys, welcome to the Fish North Georgia podcast. On this episode, we're going to talk to Jeff Nail, better known as J2 with Jimbo and Lanier's Guide Service. We're going to talk about how he's taken his military training and incorporated it into his fishing and guide service. We appreciate you watching, and let's get at it. All right, what's going on, man?
Not much.
You ready to do this?
I am.
All right, so we're here today. We're going to introduce Jeff Nail to the world. So you ready to give an account of yourself, all that stuff?
Let's let it rip.
Let it rip. All right, so perfect. So tell our listeners right now just a little bit about Jeff Nail, currently what you're doing.
Currently, I'm full-time spotted bass guide on Lake Lanier, working with Jimbo and Lanier.
Okay, you like doing that?
I do. I absolutely love it.
You absolutely love it. So that's great. So we're definitely going to get into covering how you approach Lake Lanier, and the services that you offer. But let's let everybody get to know you. Let's go back to Jeff Nail in the beginning. What got you into fishing? What's your earliest, memories of fishing?
My earliest memories would probably be I had a pond behind my house that was probably about 2 acres when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And I can remember sitting there and fishing for bluegill and whatever else would bite, with crickets and worms. My neighbors would come down and take me fishing because neither one of my parents fished.
Right.
And then I kind of got the ball rolling, and then it's been almost nonstop. I had a little break there towards the end of high school, first couple of years of college, when people
right.
have college and you do college things.
You do college things, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's how it is.
It's amazing how many people start off with a bluegill. Like the bluegill is the gateway fish into everything else. We all have that pond or something like that. Where was this at?
Down in Emanuel County, Georgia, so halfway between Macon and Savannah.
Okay.
90 miles from each.
So you're a flatlander. It's what we northern guys call you guys down there. Flatland.
Flat.
What about growing up in Emanuel down there? What was special about that?
I think at the time I didn't realize it, but what was special, looking back on it, I do. I was fortunate to grow up. We had probably almost a 200-acre small cattle farm.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I had 4 ponds to fish in.
Yeah.
I was outside every day from the time I got home from school until the sun went down.
Yeah.
Pretty much year-round.
Unfortunately, kids today, they don't get to experience that.
No. So that's probably what made it as special as it is, and probably part of the reason why I will end up retiring in an area.
Yeah.
That rule.
Yeah. So did you have to work the cattle farm?
Yeah, I can remember digging post holes when I was about 9 years old, and my dad taking a piece of electrical tape around the handle of a post hole digger and saying every 12 of your feet go down this deep.
Yeah,
and that's what I would do after school.
I got
he got home.
I got you. So you learned a work ethic, from doing that
very early.
Yeah, very early. So that's pretty cool. So some of these ponds kind of in Emanuel, I know, we're in North Georgia right now, but you get down there, it's a little bit different. A 2-acre pond up here is different than a 2-acre pond, down in South Georgia. So kind of maybe for somebody listening, describe that, that type of fishing. Did you have the cypress trees and stuff like that? Or
no,
you didn't have any of that?
I didn't have any of that, but it was, anything over about 4 feet was deep.
Yes.
I never caught a fish deeper than 4 feet, and I started fishing Lanier, and I'm like, what in the...
Yeah, it's different, ain't it?
This is a whole new world.
It
but
is.
Yeah, I never fished deeper than 4 feet. I never used anything heavier than 1/8 ounce, and if I even used a weight at all on a worm.
Right. Yeah. So you had you got your start like a lot of people do. Fishing for the brim and stuff like that. As you progressed up, when did you start getting into bass fishing?
Oh, probably 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty young.
Yeah. Okay. So all of it together. So you weren't just going for brim; you were for everything.
No. My transition from brim to bass was about long enough for me to have the coordination to turn a reel handle on a reel.
Right.
Once I could figure that out, and I was like, "Ooh, these things are big." I was extremely fortunate, and I caught my first 10-pound bass at like age 7.
Oh, you were spoiled, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was spoiled. Now, it took 20 years to do it a second time.
Absolutely. Yeah, I get
but
that.
My first one came when I was about 7 years old.
Yeah. And you remember what kind? I always like to ask people this, because I grew up fishing with a Zebco 33. That's what my dad stuck in my hand. What kind of equipment did you use back in the day? You remember
I started with a 202, went
202,
to a 404, and finally got a Zebco 33 and thought I was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And I guess when I was probably about age 9,
yeah,
I went and bought an Abu Garcia spinning rod, and I thought that I was the the biggest person on the block, and no one else could touch me, and I had to grab. I mean, you would have. I couldn't have a $2,000 setup today and be any happier and think I was any bigger than what I was with
I know.
my $25 Abu Garcia spinning rod and reel.
That's right. It's really fun when you say you graduate up to the Zebco 33. That was. But back in the day, the Zebco 33 was made. You know, the ones that they make today, I don't think are like the old ones, you know, like that.
No, I got one of the old ones in a pack at the house.
Yeah, then it's different. Mm-hmm. There's just way they're different. But so you graduate up to the Abu Garcia spinning rod, and now you're on top of the world and all. Still fish the same way though in them ponds and stuff.
I did. I fished a lot of ponds.
Was it mostly live bait and stuff back then? When did you start getting into artificials?
Oh no, I started that young too.
Okay, so that was young too.
Yeah, I used to have a little piece of Tupperware when I was probably first, second grade that would sit on top of the fridge that had my 2 or 3 baits in it.
You remember those baits?
I do. A rooster tail, a beetle spin, and a Rapala jointed bait.
There you go.
And that Rapala jointed bait, I saved my money up for like, I don't know, 2 months. It was like $6.
Yes.
And I went, and it probably, I don't know, probably looked for 30 minutes at the TG&Y back in the day and bought one of those. And I mean, I couldn't go buy a brand new truck today and be any more excited I was than to buy that one little bait back when I was, 6 or 7 years old.
It's funny. People don't realize how many big fish get caught on a rooster tail and a beetle spin. But when you get into the Rapalas, because I grew up fishing the I didn't have the jointed one, but, topwater Rapala, the old school. Why do you think those things are out of favor today? They've always worked. Nobody throws them anymore.
Well, they're not fancy.
Yeah, but they work.
They still work. I mean, I still throw a lot of Rapala bait. So
yeah,
I even have some of the old Rapala the standard Rapala number 7s and number 9s in the boat that I will use at certain times of the year.
I always find that interesting. That I think that bait still works today, but it's not. Yeah, like you said, it's not fancy.
It's great in the spawn.
In the spawn, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and cover that real quick. What makes it so great in the spawn?
I don't know. Fish don't like it sitting on top of their bed. And you can sit there and you can just let it sit there on top of their bed. And so long as it's not windy, it will sit there. And if the beds are shallow enough, they will, especially largemouth, will destroy that little Rapala sitting on top of their bed.
Yeah, so you just cast it out, you bring it. Is this a sinking one that just sits down? So you just on top of water.
Standard little, probably 2-inch floater.
And just stick it on top of the water right there.
And just wind it back in just so it's making a little wake, and then stop it right on top of the bed.
And they'll destroy it.
Yes.
There you go.
Not all the time, but it is definitely something I keep on the box, and I will definitely throw it that way.
That's awesome. So see, we got you a tip real early in this episode right there. But all right, so let's progress, because I want people to know you as you're growing up down there in the manual and all that. Take us through your high school, college, stuff like that. So let's follow your path.
So I did some moving back and forth between Emanuel County and Florida, just because of the way some things were with my parents. And that's just life. I mean, it was great. I mean, I had I lived in the most densely populated county per square mile in Florida and one of the least densely populated counties in Georgia.
Two totally different worlds, right?
Two totally different worlds, which made me for a very interesting 20-year-old, because I'm like, which path do I go down? But
right.
I would say I was a late physical bloomer, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I mean, I started my freshman year at high school at like 6'2", 130 pounds.
Right. Tall and skinny.
Maybe 130 pounds.
Right.
Probably closer to 125. So I just, you'd probably never imagine that if you saw me right now.
Yeah, you're a big dude.
Yeah, I'm not small anymore.
No.
But, I started playing sports and played 2 years of football in Georgia, moved to Florida, played my junior and senior year down in Florida, and that's a completely different world.
It is. Football in Florida, yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong, football's big in Georgia. But, 20 years ago, 25 years ago now, football in Georgia was still a 3-month sport. I show up in Florida, and football in Florida was an 11-month sport.
Right, yeah.
January through November. You got December off.
That's it, yeah.
You showed up back to school after Christmas, and it was football season.
Yeah. It's finally got that way in Georgia now, but back then Florida was ahead of the curve.
Oh yeah, I mean that we're talking mid-90s, and that's how they rolled in Florida.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So, did you like Florida better than between the two? Which one was better for you?
I'd say both. I mean, both of them made me who I am today.
Right.
I think at the time, I don't know. I can't say that I liked one anymore. They were completely total opposites of each other.
So you were able though to kind of take this world and this world, make it work for you.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of people can't do that, but
Yeah.
for you, it worked.
It did.
So like you could, like, I guess I assume like, the Emmanuel part, it was like an escape from the city and stuff like that.
I could go hang out with the country boys at a bonfire in the middle of a cattle field, and then I could go sit on the beach with the beach bums also. And be completely comfortable with both of them. Where were we
talking in Florida? You said Florida, so what city?
Clearwater,
Florida. Okay. That's
Pinellas County, Tampa Bay, that area.
Yeah. So real populated.
Extremely
populated and all that. But you adapted and you made it work.
I did.
So did you fish a lot down there?
No. So when I got down there late in high school, that's kind of when at sports and high school and, just being a teenager, there wasn't fishing in schools then. It wasn't a big thing. And,
oh, right. Absolutely.
I kind of got away from it. And I fished a little bit when I went to college. And then my first tour in the military, I got away from fishing. And then I decided I was going to get back into it. When I got back into it, it's been...
Yeah. We're on fire now. We're running full speed. You mentioned college, and then you kind of mentioned military. And I want all our viewers and listeners to understand the military aspect, because earlier when you and I were talking, you said that made it, that made you who you are. Mm-hmm. All these experiences and stuff like that. I have it listed down here, and I could read it, but I think it'd be better if it came out of your mouth. Tell everybody a little bit about that transition from college to military, and let's kind of get a feel for. We have Jeff Nail here today. This is what brought you to this point.
So not unlike a lot of people who enlist in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college for 3 years because that's what you did. You went to college.
Yeah.
And to say I was bored would probably be an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
I did not enjoy college. I enjoyed the social life. But I was like bored in class,
yes.
And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I couldn't figure it out. I was flopping around like a fish out of water. So I was like, why am I paying all this money? And I have no idea what I want to do. I changed my major like 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I ended up working for a year, and then finally I just up and decided, and within about 30 days I was enlisted in the Army, and away I go. I go jump out of airplanes.
Got to jump out of airplanes.
Jump out of some airplanes.
So you're one of those guys. I know a few of those guys. You guys are built a little different. It takes a little bit different mentality to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah, let's not get carried away with perfectly good.
You're right.
We're talking about something built by the lowest bidder here.
Yeah, there you go. I got you. So you have right here that the first 15 years of your career, you enlisted as airborne infantry,
mm-hmm.
but you rotated between the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg and the 5th Ranger Training Battalion located in Dahlonega, Georgia. So the 82nd Airborne, now that's something that when you hear that on the news, that's a very well-known group. So,
it is. It's a different mentality when you come to jumping out of an airplane.
Yeah.
It's a different breed of people. And I don't care if it's a support guy, if it's an infantry guy, if it's an artillery guy. When you volunteer to go jump out of an airplane, you're wired a little bit different than the vast majority of people that join the military. Nothing against the guys that don't.
Right.
But it's a different mentality.
What is it about that type of training that separates those two type of individuals?
I don't know. There's a bunch of different theories on it. I think some of it is that you attract a different type of person.
Mm-hmm.
For example, like a lot of the guys that I know when I was at the 82nd were all extremely intelligent individuals,
mm-hmm.
Very, very smart. And they came in the Army because they were bored and they wanted to go do something that they could not do in the civilian world.
Right.
And that was jump out of airplanes
and
get paid for it.
Yeah.
You also get the people who have the ability to overcome fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of guys who were terrified of heights that jumped out of airplanes.
Yeah.
But they had that ability to compartmentalize and deal with fear and overcome it. And I think that plays a role when you start looking at the roles that those type of units have played, over the last almost 100 years now of warfare. That mentality of being able to, overcome fear and still accomplish what is said can't be done, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah.
It's a mentality more than anything else.
And I could honestly imagine that helps you today.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff that comes with situations like that. Let me read this off. I want to read, because you've got it perfectly right here. Because we can say you was in the military, and that's kind of general. it's kind of a vague thing, but this is, you've got it listed out for me, and I think it's perfect. Your progression. So you were built for the military. I think, would you agree that your mindset, you were the perfect individual? You found yourself in there?
Yeah, no, I fit in pretty good.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's like,
it was a natural fit.
From college, you say, 3 years, I didn't know what I'm doing, and then now I'm looking at it, I can see just nothing but advancement and stuff like that. So you took to it.
Oh, yeah, like a fish to water.
Like a fish to water. What do you think about, before I read this off, what do you think about the military, and especially for somebody that's listening that might be thinking about joining, what was it that made it click for you, once you got in there?
It's a level of camaraderie that it cannot be described. I mean, I could sit here and try to explain it to you, but unless you've experienced it, I mean, it's take a fraternity and exponentially growth the camaraderie or sorority. I mean, that would be the closest thing on the civilian side I could say. Yeah. But you're talking about a much, much tighter group of individuals.
Well, you have to entrust your lives with the people that are around you.
Exactly. And, the truest line that I've ever heard on a movie talking about military service would have been a line out of Black Hawk Down, and the guy's like, why do you do it? Is it for the excitement? Is it for the money? Is it for whatever? And the guy's like, nope, because it doesn't matter. You do it for the guy next to you. And that's really what it is.
Okay.
When shit hits the fan, pardon my French, it does not matter why you are there. You're fighting for the guy to the left and right to make sure that individual goes home.
And so when you joined that right there, you felt that as you got in there. You're like,
once you get in and you start to see it, and you become part of the organization and the group, and then the camaraderie, and you start to see what guys are willing to do for their buddy, essentially, there's nothing like it.
So it's not just something that when people watch a movie and they see that and they think, well, it's just kind of emphasized in the movie. What you're saying is, no, that's real. That's exactly the way it is.
That's real.
Yeah.
You go to the ends of the earth to the guy to your left and right.
That's awesome. That's good stuff right there. So I want to read this off. I won't read the dates and all, but infantry scout, sniper team leader. So you're a sniper.
Yes.
We might talk about that. Squad leader, combat techniques instructor, platoon sergeant, mountaineering instructor, which will play a big role in what we're going to talk about later, first sergeant, 101st Airborne Division staff, U.S. Army Sergeant's Major Academy student, instructor of U.S. Army Sergeant's Major Academy. And the military schools you completed, this is pretty impressive: Airborne, Ranger, Jump Master, Pathfinder, Basic Military Mountaineering, Advanced Mountaineering, and then you put some other less exciting ones is like that. So very well educated in all this stuff in the military. You took advantage of all these opportunities.
I did. I spent a lot of time in schools.
Yeah, so I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize in the military. I think some people got, it's soldier, stuff like that, but there's a lot of training that goes into all this. So from infantry scout all the way to instructor, kind of take us a little bit through that path and how you you rose through the ranks. What did it take to do that? Because that's an impressive.
It is.
It's impressive.
It is, and it's a very. I'd be saying if I didn't sacrifice other parts of my life for that success, I'd be lying. For the vast majority of that 20 years, the Army came first. And when I mean the Army came first, I mean it came before pretty much anything. Yeah. I knew one speed, and that was gas on the pedal, full speed ahead, and I never looked back. I never looked sideways. I didn't have time to. Mm-hmm. For better or worse, it allowed me to be extremely successful. Yeah. It allowed me to do a lot of things I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do, but I also paid a price for it as well. So,
I understand. So there's sacrifices that you have to make. And I think that's in anything like that, especially this. We're going to talk a lot about the mountaineering, because that's when we're going to talk about topography, mm-hmm. which is a big source of information that you still like to utilize. How did you get into that? Your mountaineering, because we see Airborne, Ranger, Jump Master, and then all of a sudden it goes to mountaineering. How did we make that transition?
So the 5th Ranger Training Battalion in Dahlonega mm-hmm. teaches the mountain phase of Ranger School. Okay. So with that comes the mountaineering schools. It's actually one of the largest within the Department of Defense, it trains more people in basic mountaineering than almost any other school.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does. It cranks through, 2,000 plus students a year are trained in at least an introductory course, so to speak, over like 5 days of basic military mountaineering.
And explain that about what mountaineering is.
Essentially how to rappel with somebody, how to rappel a litter, how to basic climb, use fixed ropes to go up semi-vertical slopes, essentially how to function in a mountainous environment. And then the combat techniques instructor and the mountaineering stuff all has to do with how to function as a military infantry unit in the mountainous environment.
Okay. And it is during this school that you learn topography?
No, I started learning that. I mean, that's like basic
is that
level.
Basic?
Yeah,
okay.
That's basic. I mean, don't get me wrong. I had a map glued to my hand for pretty much the 8 years I was in Lanier, but basic map reading is something I did as when I was in the scout platoon.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, I was out. It was not uncommon for me to be out in the middle of nowhere with me and one other guy.
Yeah.
Don't get lost. You better know how to read a map because it's dark.
Now that's something that is a lost art these days.
It is.
It's a very lost art. And when we get talking into the fishing aspect, we're definitely gonna circle back to that because I find that to be a lot of good information there that a lot of people probably don't take advantage of. So while in the military, you had 4 deployments: 2002 to Afghanistan, 2003 to Fallujah. Did I read that correctly?
It's a good time.
Okay.
Can't wait to go back on vacation.
Yeah, I imagine. 2009, Western Iraq. 2016, Baghdad. So you were in the heart of all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that you might want to say about any of those? I know some of that stuff could be tough. I don't want to,
Each one of them had its own difficulties. Each one
Right.
of them had its own, I wouldn't say ease to it, but they all had their ups. They all had their downs. None of those 4 were the same. They were all completely different. They all had their own individual challenges. So.
Yeah. So how is Afghanistan different from Iraq? Just in a general sense.
Well, back in 2002, there was, there was no communication with family. I mean, we would go like, nowadays everybody has cell phones. Everybody has, internet everywhere.
Yeah.
The only communication we had with family for the first 3 to 4 months I was in Afghanistan was when the yellow bags would get dropped off the helicopters.
Really?
And it was, yellow U.S. Postal Service bags.
Right.
I mean, that was, you got some written mail and that was it.
You're isolated.
You're isolated. You had no clue what was going on outside of wherever we were at in Afghanistan at that point in time. And then
Really?
as those deployments went on, technology improved, bases became established, infrastructure improved, and all that stuff. But, I can remember sleeping in basically a World War II, Vietnam era tent,
Wow.
in the middle of Afghanistan with a diesel potbelly stove, just praying we didn't burn the thing down in the middle of the night. Because it
Really?
was freezing cold, yeah.
Really? That's to say it was tough, that's kind of an understatement.
Austere, I think, is a
austere.
It was a very austere environment.
Austere. Violent?
Towards the end, it picked up. We kind of got there after Anaconda, and so they kind of had their tails between their legs for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it started picking up there towards the end. The violent one was 2003 in Iraq and Fallujah. That deployment was.
So you saw
else.
a lot of combat in that.
Yeah, I was busy.
Busy.
I was busy.
What exactly at that time were you doing?
I was a sniper team leader at that time.
So you were a sniper.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know the sun came up for about 3 months because I only worked from sundown to sunup. Slept all day.
Really? So sniping at night?
At night.
So just somebody listening, the portrayal that we see in the movies were you alone? Did you have a guy with you?
I had one other person with
me. You had one other person. So
Yep.
you were the one firing the gun?
I did.
And so the other person was giving you wind, stuff like that, or whatever. I mean, that's kind of what we see.
Yeah, I mean,
in
it
the
was.
movies.
We worked together in unison, so it really depended on what was going on. But generally speaking, yes, I was the trigger guy. He carried the radio, but everything we did was in. We didn't do anything independently of the other one.
So basically, you were like one person. You're 2 people working as one.
Correct.
Yeah. So okay, that's sniper training and stuff like that. I know you like to deer hunt and stuff like that. But you have to have special skills to be a sniper. I mean, your eyesight, everything.
Pulling the trigger is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's all the other stuff.
What is the other stuff?
And actually, I would say shooting in general is the easy part.
Okay. Well, for somebody that's listening, what's the hard part?
Most people, I don't think, can function by themselves in an environment like that confidently. I mean, I was in the middle of a combat zone with one other person, and the nearest American was 5, 6, 7 kilometers away.
Yeah.
And had to maintain composure, had to think, had to be able to, function and act. And, a lot of guys, they can't do that.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what you're talking about with the 82nd Airborne. You have to overcome that fear.
Yeah.
You have to overcome that and to remain calm in a situation, which I guess all this definitely helps you today. But I don't think many people, well, I know many people have never been in that situation. So you're probably right. How did you overcome that? What was it about you that was able to do that?
I don't know. It came, being able to do that job and all the other stuff that comes with it.
Right. Yeah.
Came natural.
Okay.
I can remember a kid one time when we were exfilling out of an operation. He was part of the rifle platoon that came in, and I linked up with him. He goes, "How long have you been here?" And I was like, "I've been here about 18 hours." He goes, "Who else was here with you?" I was like, "Well, so-and-so." He goes, "You've been here for 18 hours by yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, "That's how you found out where to go, because I was here before you."
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting.
Were you like as a sniper, were you like support too? Like were you supporting like, say as a ground platoon or combat would go in, giving cover and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would usually, a lot of times they would do cordon and searches of small villages and towns, and I would go in 6 to 12 hours ahead of time and basically watch the town, watch the roads in and out of the town, and be able to give the guys that were coming real time information of what was going on.
Right. How did you get in before them like that?
Walk.
Sneaking in and all that, or you just walk right down the street like?
It depended.
Depended.
The best place to hide is in plain sight.
Really?
I hid in plain sight more times than I can count. And when I mean in plain sight, I'm talking like where you would, the least place you'd possibly expect somebody to be.
Okay, so plain sight as American, that seems kind of like, you'd stand out.
Yeah, so for an example, everybody thinks, oh, well, get high, and get high is important. Yeah. But I'd be in ditches.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd be in
so
a
you're
ditch.
Absolutely right, because a lot of people think sniper, you're on top of the building.
No, because
nobody ever thinks low.
No, nobody ever thinks low. I hid in the median of a 4-lane road.
In the middle of Iraq.
In the middle of Iraq, right outside of Fallujah, on the edge of Fallujah.
Really?
Watching Fallujah one night. I was in the median of a 4-lane road.
Cars going by?
Cars going by.
Never knew you were there.
Never knew I was there.
That's all. I mean, that's good stuff. But also, it goes to that's the best way to say this. You have to have a set. You know what I mean? You have to have a set,
or be a little off your rocker, so you can
well,
choose
that
whichever
could be
one.
Both, either one. But that's so Fallujah was the worst of all of them. That's the way you like to describe it. That's so your last two deployments, 2009, 2016, getting a little bit easier. You just more supported. Were you still doing the same thing?
No, 2009 I was a platoon sergeant, so
yeah.
I got some pretty funny stories from that deployment. But
all right, let's hear one.
So we were driving out and up towards the Syrian border out in western Iraq. Okay. And we were in a convoy of, it's probably 6 vehicles, and we were heading out to a small little Iraqi outpost that was up by the Syrian border. Mm-hmm. We were probably 2 hours from the American base. And then I was the trail vehicle in the convoy. That's where the platoon sergeant rides. Mm-hmm. And it was myself, my medic, my driver, a gunner, and then a civilian contractor that we had.
Right.
That was my vehicle, and that was it. And, we're out there in the open desert. We're spaced about 500 meters apart, right, driving down the road.
Right.
And we go over a hill, and when we go over a hill, all of a sudden my vehicle, I see flames shooting out from under the hood and up the windshield.
Right.
And I was like, shit. So we,
yeah.
I'm like, the damn vehicle's on. We pull over, and And then I'll never forget, as we're pulling over, I see the vehicle in front of me just go over the hilltop. And I was like, well, they'll figure out what's going on. So we pull over, we get the fire extinguisher, we put the vehicle out. My entire electrical system in the vehicle's dead. It's fried. Radios, everything.
So you're just stranded right
So we're sitting there, we're like, well, they should be back any minute. They're not back yet. So I get my hand radio out, and I climb up on top of the MRAP, and I'm standing with my arm. I'm straddling my gunner's turret, standing on top of it, so I can get as high as I possibly can, with the radio antenna extended as high as I can possibly get it, holding it as high as I can and yelling at my radio. And after about 35 or 40 minutes, I finally hear something on the radio, and they finally realized that I was no longer in the convoy. And here I am sitting on the side of the road in Iraq by myself with 3 other dudes, 4 other guys, just kind of
just sitting there,
just hanging out, vehicle, smoking still.
Right in the open, can't hide.
We're like, all right, this is awesome.
Yeah, right.
Let's hope nothing happens.
Yeah, and luckily it didn't.
No, nothing happened. And I think the kid that was supposed to be paying attention to what was going on behind him, I think they put that dude in protective custody for about 2 weeks.
I understand. You was a little upset with him.
I was not a happy camper.
I would not be a happy camper either. If I was stranded on the side of a road in Iraq, no, I would not be a happy camper.
Yeah, that was. I think about that story and I laugh every time I think about it. I was like, that was great. And then the funny thing is the very next day we're doing the exact same convoy. And plus or minus about 500 yards, a second vehicle catches on fire.
Really?
I didn't get stranded that time, though. They realized that I was pulled over.
Right.
So,
just an interesting little point on that story. You said 500 feet or 500 meters apart on purpose.
Correct.
And that's in case you were attacked or
something. I mean, you're in a wide open desert. You can mutually support each other, but you're far enough apart that if one vehicle becomes decisively engaged, the others are not.
Okay. Interesting. That's an interesting point to know. Your military service as a whole, how do you think it translates to you today in your actions? Do you still, in your daily actions, bring in, things you learned from the military? You're like, maybe your scheduling, maybe your, how you do things. Does it still influence you?
Influence, yes, to some extent.
Okay.
Obviously, looking at me, you would never know that I just retired from the military.
Well, your hair's a little long.
My hair's a little long.
That's all right, though.
Yeah, and some of that is planned, I should say. So when I left, I'm medically retired from the military. Basically, the military is like, dude, you went too hard, too fast, for too long.
Rode hard and put up wet, right?
Yeah, like you're done, guy.
How many years you have in?
20.
20 years, okay. All right.
So, the last thing I wanted to do is like wake up in the morning and see the same person that I saw for 20 years and be thinking about what I could be doing in the military if I was still in. So, growing my hair out, growing facial hair, and then basically just kind of shifting gears in life.
Okay, yeah.
Is a psychological shift. For me as well. So,
because I imagine you didn't get to fish that much during your military years.
No. So when I was here in Lanier, I did.
Yeah.
When I was out in El Paso, I didn't. There's not a lot of water in El Paso.
Right.
Did
you miss it? Or was you just too busy to know about it?
No, I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed it. But I can remember going fishing in Lanier after being awake for 36 plus hours, hook the boat up and go to the lake and get to the boat ramp, and there'd be an extension cord dragging, or I'd forget to put the jack all the way up, and I rolled all the way down the road with the jack on it, or I'd have an extension cord dragging behind the truck, and I'd be like, maybe I shouldn't be fishing today.
Right, yeah, no sleep for 36 hours.
Yeah, who does it? But no, I'd sit there and make fun of myself and back the boat up in the water and go fishing.
Right, I get it. But so the love of fishing, followed you all the way through that, and so now we're out of the military, and what did we do next?
I actually went to law school for a year.
Yeah,
I did. I moved from El Paso to Kansas City and went to the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Right.
Law school.
Thinking about being a lawyer?
Yeah. I figured out. I've sat behind a desk for the previous 5 years of my career. I'm like, that's what you do. You go sit behind a desk. I physically probably shouldn't be doing anything physical related, so let me go do this.
Yeah. But it wasn't you.
No, I had a family issue that came up, which brought me back to Georgia, and I put that on hold. So I'm not saying it necessarily wasn't me. I'm a natural fighter.
Right.
Like,
so when you thinking about,
what I do.
Yeah. So you had you've got the intelligence, you got that drive. Life gets in the way, so you put that on that. But do you think you might go back one day?
I might. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might.
What kind of law would you practice?
Probably criminal, if I had to guess.
Right. Would you be a prosecutor or defense? Defense, like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's that fighter in you.
It is.
Yeah. Oh, that's good stuff. But we're back in Georgia now.
Yes. So, like I've told people in the military,
yeah,
the best laid combat plan goes out the window at first contact. The best laid life plan goes out the window at first time of life. So life threw me a curveball. So
we all have to face that. So
I'm gonna make the best of it. And
yeah.
So
how did you get when you come back to Georgia? Now we're gonna get into the fishing. You've got the love for the fishing. You've been raised. You were raised fishing and all that. How did we get back into it once we're back into Georgia?
Jimbo had a big play in that. So,
okay.
There's people that
for those that don't know, Jimbo is a guide on Lake Lanier.
He's one of
the more well-known guides on the Lake Lanier area.
He is, and I've known him since probably 2011.
Okay.
So I've known him a long time, and to say that, there's people who have really good friends in life. Mm-hmm. You have confidants in life, and you have mentors in life.
Yes.
I'm fortunate that I have all three.
Okay.
In one person with him.
Okay, good. So that relationship brought you into this, and so now currently you are working with Jimbo.
I am.
And what is your capacity with that?
As far as
like you guide.
I guide with him full time.
Guide with him full time. And Lake Lanier is your
Lake
primary.
Lanier is my primary lake.
All right. So for those that are listening, we're gonna get into Lake Lanier. And we're going to talk about how you approach Lake Lanier, what you do with your clients and on your free time. So, because we've had some interesting discussions already before we started recording this on that. How do you approach Lake Lanier? Are you a power fisherman or are you a finesse guy?
A power finesse guy.
And that's why I wanted to hear. You said power finesse. Explain to everybody kind of what you told me earlier, what a power finesse guy is.
So I'll use a finesse type presentations, but I will use them in a more power manner. And what I mean by that is for example, the ditch fishing with a 2.8 Kitech is generally a pretty finesse way to fish.
Right.
But I will pull up to an area and I'll make 10 or 15 casts. And if I don't get a bite or see something that super excites me on the electronics, I'm gone.
Right.
I'm off to the next one.
Right.
I'm not going to sit there and play footsie with fish for 3 hours trying to get one of them to bite. If I know that if there's nothing that tells me these fish are hungry and are going to eat and I can trigger them to bite, I'm gone. See you later.
Right.
And I will downsize baits, generally speaking, before I will upsize.
Okay. All right. And why is that?
I don't know. I've been successful doing it. If I can't get bit on, the standard size, what everybody says, throw, for an example, probably 10 years ago, everybody was like, super spook, super spook, super spook.
Yes, you're right.
And I was throwing a super spook. And I got a couple, but nothing crazy. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to break out a super spook junior.
Just make that little subtle change.
And I dropped to a super spook junior and had one of the best topwater days I ever had on that lake.
Right.
And that, when that happened, I was like, if everybody is throwing size X, I'm going to downsize to just the one below.
Just to give them something a little bit different.
A little bit different.
And you found success doing that.
Yep.
Okay. When you approach a ditch, and this can be good information for anybody on any lake, what are you looking for going into the ditch? Is it bait? Is it contour? Is it all the above?
So the bait is kind of an oddity.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, go find a ton of bait. No, if I see a cloud of bait, I'm not fishing there.
And why is that?
I may fish near there, but I'm not fishing there.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, the best analogy I can come up with, and I hope I don't offend anybody with this, but it's like taking a blow-up doll to a strip club and expecting to make a lot of money.
Interesting analogy.
It's not going to happen.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
You've got the real thing sitting right next to you, and not only do you have the real thing, you've got millions of the real thing sitting right next to you.
Okay, yeah, I got you. I'm following
you ain't got to trick anybody for anything. It's not happening.
Yeah.
You're going to sit there and you're going to look cool, but you ain't making any money. The real thing's making the money.
Real thing's making the money. Okay. No, hey, I've never heard that analogy before, but it works.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
right
there is too much of a good thing, essentially, is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
I don't necessarily want to find a place that's, a barren desert.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily mean the fish aren't there. But for me personally, if there are clouds upon clouds upon clouds of bait, I don't even mess with it.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's better places to fish. Now, I will look near that. Mm-hmm. So if there's like a secondary ditch that's off of where all that is, I'll go check that out.
Okay.
But I'm not going to throw in the middle of a cloud, a quarter-mile long cloud of thread fins.
Right.
Not happening.
So for those, you mentioned throwing a 2.8 Kitech in a ditch. Let's say you find the ditch that has the right amount of bait. What presentation are you making with that Kitech? How are you using it? Slow. On the bottom.
On the bottom.
Keep in contact the entire time.
The entire time.
And how do the fish attack that? What kind of bite is it?
Subtle. So, I think when I say subtle, I'm talking like a lot of times you won't even feel them. The rod will just load up. You will never feel a bite.
It's just there.
It's just there.
Is it the way they attack it?
I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. I know as it's gotten colder, the bites become more subtle. When it was warmer, it would be a little bit more of a tip. But now it's such a subtle. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're like, and you have to. The more I've thrown it, and I've thrown it probably 75% of the time is what I've thrown for the last 2 months.
Okay.
I've had that bait in my hand. Yeah. So I've gotten used to it. I know what it feels like on the rods that I throw, and I know what a rock feels like. I know what more often than not.
Right.
So I feel something that's different. I've learned that that's a bite.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them, the rod just loads up. It's crazy.
How long does that ditch bite, kind of for everybody, when does that really start here in Georgia?
It started for me back in early December.
So December. And how long do you think it'll run and be because that's one of the primary bites going on right now?
I would say all the way up until the fish start pushing shallow. If you look at where these ditches are, they're all relatively close to spawning areas anyway.
Right.
So the fish are just going to push up from there. I mean, it's so.
Okay. So to the spawn, basically, to the late pre-spawn?
Until the pre-spawn kicks up, until the fish start moving up the stage to getting ready to spawn, you'll probably be able to catch them in ditches. In ditches,
okay. Any other way to, other than a Kitech, that you can attack fish in ditches?
You jig, underspin, shaky head.
Got any preference on any of those?
No, not really. I mean, I will pick, like I have thrown probably 3 different types of shaky head worms. Some days have done well, some days have not. I've done best on the shaky head. Mm-hmm. And if I'm in a group of fish in a ditch, mm-hmm. and they all of a sudden they're eating, and they stop. All of a sudden I just stop getting bites. I'll put the Kitech down and pick up a shaky head, throw it in the exact same areas, and drag that sucker across the bottom, and they'll start biting again.
Okay.
When they stop biting that, then I'll pick the Kitech back up.
Okay, well, that makes sense. You're just rotating. Is the bite as subtle on a shaky head compared to a Kitech?
Right now it is.
Right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so just very little feel in the rod.
Yeah, I mean, imagine hooking into a wet sponge.
That's what it feels like.
That's what it feels like.
And primarily we're catching spotted bass right now here in North Georgia.
Yep.
Do you ever get into largemouth in the ditches, or is it pretty much just spots?
No, there's largemouth that'll show up every now and then.
Yeah, does it hitting still the same thing?
Exact same thing, exact same way.
Gotcha. Okay. You listed, we were talking about ways that you do fish, and that right now, of course, we're in the ditches. You like to utilize a drop shot. Mm-hmm. All right. How is a power finesse guy doing a drop shot? So
I will use that for 2, maybe going into 3 months out of the year. So mm-hmm. like late March, April, and into May.
Yeah.
And I will get about, half a cast length of a full cast length off the bank.
Yeah.
And I'll go straight down the bank with it. Same way you would pitch a jig or pitch a Texas rig worm and stuff, but I've got a drop shot with about a 6-inch leader on it.
Okay, so that's what I was getting to ask. So your leader is very short. You're trying to keep it on the bottom like that.
And keep the bait suspended right off the bottom, and I will fish it. I will put the trolling motor down, and I'll go.
Okay, so you approach that a little more like. I noticed you said if you go to, are we talking still in the ditch? Are we on points?
No,
now?
we're on points or rocky banks, clay banks,
mm-hmm.
wherever I'll do it around docks.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do it around bridge pilings. I'll do it, wherever I think the fish happen to be hiding. I'll fish that around bridge pilings almost year round.
Okay.
I will go find a bridge piling and pitch a drop shot around it.
Now, do you still do it vertical like a lot of people do?
No, I cast it.
You're a caster.
I mean, I do vertical fish it some.
If it dictates.
Yeah, like in the summer when they just decide they want to get lockjaw and you got to force feed them.
Right.
But I spend a lot of time casting a drop shot.
Interesting, because I would say that the vast majority of people, when we mention the word drop shot, they're thinking, of course, looking at your electronics, up and down, just vertical stuff.
No,
but you're saying, and I also now I've had other people on the podcast before, and I want to get your opinion on this, who lengthen the leader when they cast. You go short.
I do.
You go short. Now, why would you?
But I'm not making real long casts either, and I'm fishing relatively shallow water.
Okay, all right. So
when I say relatively shallow, I mean less than 10.
Yeah. So you think you have more success? So have you tried with a longer?
Yeah.
It didn't work for you.
Didn't work for me.
So you went down to the short like that. When you vertical fish, when you drop shot in vertical, is your leader still 6 inches or any longer?
No, it's about 18.
About 18. So you do make that difference.
Yep.
And you find that to be more successful. Is there a time? I know you said points, stuff like that, but you also fish docks, bridge. So really, you'll throw that anywhere. There's not a time you won't throw it like that.
Very, very, very little. I mean, anywhere you would throw a shaky head, you throw it.
Okay. Do you think it's better than a shaky head?
At times, yes.
And what makes it better?
I have no idea, but I can tell you right now, I have flat loaded the boat with that get up in certain times of the year.
Is it a color thing too as well?
So, I mean, if whatever.
Or do you kind of just use the same color year round?
No,
How do you change your colors on your shaky heads and let's go there, your drop shots? What determines what color you're going to use?
Well, I saw something with Gerald Swindle the other day. He was talking about how you figure out what crankbait to throw. And he said you open up the box and find the one with the most teeth marks on it. So I'm probably going to look around in the boat and figure out what do I have most empty packages of?
Right, yeah.
So that's what I'm probably going to throw today.
Yeah.
So I don't get overcomplicated with colors. I used to. I mean, I had the bags upon. I mean, I basically and now am something in the green pumpkin or watermelon family. Variations thereof. But I'm not going to sweat and overly stress about it.
How about your size of worm when you do this? You throwing a 6-inch finesse? You going shorter? You going longer?
Yeah, it's kind of just whatever I'm not going to say that there's something that, hey, this time of the year I'm always going to throw X.
Right.
I mean, I'll throw one, and if I don't get bit, and I think I should be getting bit, then I'll switch up and go shorter.
I was getting ready to say.
Go longer or something. But I really, a trick worm would probably be the longest worm that I throw in a shaky head. And then I'll go all the way down to a 4-inch worm.
Right.
And there are times when I'll do that too.
Do you normally start on the longer side? Because I know you said you go shorter with your other stuff. So do you normally start with the longer worm and then kind of work your way down, or does it really matter?
It does. I don't really think it matters. I mean, I caught fish day before yesterday on a trick worm sized worm, and I caught them yesterday on a finesse sized worm.
Gotcha. Just whatever the fish are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, some days they want one, some days they want the other. If you're putting in areas, and you've put it in an area long enough where you think you should be biting, and there's fish there and you haven't gotten bit, then change something. Change the length of the worm, change the profile, but maybe change the color, but you don't have to get carried away with it.
How long would you give something before you changed it?
Depending on the type of year, maybe 15, 20 casts, depending on where I'm at.
And then at that point you say, okay.
Yeah, if I know that they should be eating it, then I'm going to go try something else.
I got you. With the shaky heads, do you like a ball type shaky head to stand up? I mean, do you have a preference?
I throw an old school. A guy laughed at me. He goes, "Wow, you're straight old school." I should throw an old school painted ball with a 45-degree line tie.
And that's it.
That's it.
And it works perfectly.
It works great.
Okay. So you think people overthink that a little bit
I
too?
do.
What is the biggest mistake you think most anglers make when it comes to drop shot and shaky head?
Hook set.
Okay. All right. What about the hook set?
Well, I take that back. 2 things. Yeah. A, imparting too much action on the bait, not letting the bait do its thing.
Too much action.
Yep.
What is too much action?
So I've seen some guys, people think shaky head. They're like, oh, I got to shake the snot out of my rod.
Right.
It's like they're up there slapping flies or something with it.
Yeah.
I'll shake a little bit. But if you were to watch my line when I shake it, I never actually I'm really shaking the bow in the line. I will never shake the bait on a tight line.
Okay.
I'll shake so it's just enough to like rattle the head on the bottom.
Gotcha.
And then I don't do it much, and then it's a lot of drag, and just let it sit there and let the current and the rocking of the natural movement do the bait more natural. I don't sit there and
Yeah, right.
I don't know why I'm not getting bit.
Right.
Especially this time of the year.
Yeah.
Right now it's just count rocks. Rock 1, pause. Rock 2, pause. Maybe shake.
Gotcha.
And then, it's just painful.
Very, very slow.
Very slow. Yeah. But let the worm do its work. You don't have to overly get carried away with shaking the snot out of it.
Right. So you think most people, they're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So
and
way too much, and that kind of inhibits their success.
And I think they miss bites because of it.
Really? Because they're doing so much shaking and
they don't feel it.
Yeah.
Fish can pick it up, bite it, and spit it right back out. And if the fish doesn't move, the guy's never going to feel it.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Drop shot, same way. You think they're making that same mistake?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who sit there and shake the rod tip.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
I just drop it down there and almost dead stick it year round. Now I'll shake it a little bit when I'm casting it,
right?
But it's not a fast, violent. It's just a slight, just enough to get the bait to move a little bit in the water. It's not much.
And so Demiki, do the same thing? You
yeah, I do fish it, but not.
It's more of a dead stick kind of thing.
It is. It's like drop it down there and stick it, and maybe wind it up real fast to make it look like it's escaping or something like that.
Right.
But, I haven't needed to fish a Demiki this winter. I've caught.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I've caught 5 or 10 fish on it, and I will drop down on them every now and then. But I give it about 30 seconds, and if the fish hadn't eaten, I've gone back to throwing a Kitech or a shaky head.
Just don't have the patience for it.
Well, I don't. It's not so I don't have to. I do.
Right.
But I'm getting bit doing other things. So why am I going to sit here and fish at a snail's pace if I can at least be throwing and winding something,
right?
And I'm catching fish.
Exactly. How let's go across Lanier, like a fishing 12-month cycle, to see kind of how you approach Lanier. So right now we're in January, almost into February. Ditches. We talked about ditches. That's the primary bite going on right now, I would say. As we transition into the pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn kind of stuff, how are you changing? Are you still using finesse techniques in your power style, or do you make a transition into something else?
No, I think a general rule of thumb for me is my primary rods that I'm going to throw in the winter and the spring are going to be spinning rod based.
Right.
The primary thing I'm going to throw in the summer and the fall is going to be bait casting based.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to, it's just the way I fish, and it's just the way it works out. I will probably be a soft plastics person, pretty heavily from now until mid-May.
Okay.
And there'll be days I'll throw jerk baits, and there'll be days when I'll throw jigs, and there'll be some days but a jig you can put in the same category as a soft bait, really.
Yeah.
You're fishing it the same way.
Right.
And I'll throw crankbait some. And if I can get on a really good crankbait bite, I'll throw it till my arm falls off because it's awesome to catch fish on a crankbait. But I would say my go-to is going to be a soft plastic from now until probably mid-May.
Okay. And we transition at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have a couple bait casters on your deck, but mostly you're in spinning. You can be doing mostly drop shotting. How about, let me ask you this, when they spawn, that drop shot, pretty deadly?
I'll plead the fifth.
I understand.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Okay. I've heard from others. Let's just say that. So, okay. So you take from that what you will if you're listening.
Take it how you want it.
Take that how you want it.
But I'm going to tell you right now, from now till mid-May,
yeah,
that I will be going I keep my spinning rods on the right-hand side of my deck and my bait casters on the left.
Yeah.
I will be undoing the strap on my right to start off with more often than I will the one on my left.
Understand.
So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, you take that for what you want, but I think I got enough out of that. Let's go from May transitioning into the summertime. You're going to be working on your left side a little bit more because that's your bait caster side.
I am.
Okay, so what are we doing there?
Oh, we're throwing topwater.
Topwater
and swim baits.
Okay, what's your favorite topwater bait out there?
Gunfish, a 95 series gunfish.
Yeah? What separates that from the others?
It's a combination of a walking and a a spitting. It does a little bit of both.
Right.
So, and it's got a little bit smaller profile than a lot of the other ones. I have a ton of confidence in it.
Uh-huh.
I've caught a pile of fish on it. I caught fish on December 18th on a gunfish.
Oh, really? They were still hitting topwater.
In the back of a pocket.
Okay. So,
and I don't mean like tapping on it. I mean, they unloaded on it. And the guy that was with me was a no-Coney guy, and he's like, what in the...
they get up here to Lanier, and Lanier's very well known. The spots can school and bust water. They can do it year-round.
Yes.
And sometimes they do it in the coldest of colds. You just got to be there. But what are you looking for when you're going topwater? I mean, when you leave out with the client that morning and you know you're going to throw topwater, what are you targeting as far as structure or,
So earlier in the summer, it's going to be shallower humps and points.
Okay.
I'm not really getting, because they're still transitioning from the spawn on their way out. So I'm going to, that's when your reef markers, your shallow humps, your points that come out, even your blow throughs, because you got the herring spawn going on in mid-May.
Right.
So all those type areas, it's not going to be super deep water. As the summer progresses and as the water gets warmer, then I'm going to start looking. The warmer the water gets, the deeper I'm going to look.
Right.
As far as brush, but it's the same structure. I'm just looking in deeper water.
Yeah, and spots are more aggressive as far as compared to largemouth of coming out of deeper water for a topwater.
Yeah, they'll come out of 30 feet of water.
That's
plus.
amazing too that they know it's up there.
And if you watch it on your Garmin, you'll almost have a stroke.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you do. You see them coming. How much does electronics play in your approach?
In the summer, a lot.
Right.
I know a lot of guys right now are living by them right now.
Yeah.
I probably use my mapping more than my electronics.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
I've got a Helix 9 that does not even have a transducer hooked to it. All it does is run Lake Master. And
that's where I've been kind of highlighting that a little bit as we've been going along. Topography. The art of topography. Am I saying that correct?
Close enough.
Close enough. What is the proper way to say it?
Topography, map reading, orienteering. I mean, being able to decipher a contour map is a lost art.
Exactly. And we kind of discussed that. A lot of people are so used to just using the electronics and all that. You utilize topography, orienteering, map reading, and all that. Why is it important? Why should everybody know this? And I know a lot of people don't, but it's that important to you. Why should people pay attention to that?
Well, from a whole life perspective, GPSs can get turned off with a flip of a switch. Done. Gone. See you later. Somebody hacks the satellites, GPSs are done.
Right.
And there's a lot of people right now who couldn't find their way to work if that happened.
That is true, unfortunately.
So, it's one of those skills, like kind of like building a fire. Like, you need to know how to read a map.
Right.
Period. Because here's the deal. Even if your GPS goes out in your car, you can zoom out and still use the map. It's not going to show you where you're at, but you still got a map that you can use.
Right, yes.
It's still there. So you need to be able to understand, like, how to do that. And it completely confuses some people and just throws them for a curve.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Translate that into fishing.
Okay, so when it comes to fishing,
yeah,
just like humans, fish are essentially lazy. They want to get the most bang for the least amount of effort.
Right.
And the topography of a lake forces fish to do certain things. And, it's no different than if you were walking across the same ground. The only difference is a fish can move vertically where you and I are stuck to the ground.
Right.
So just keep that in mind. And it helps you eliminate water. The old saying 90% of the fish are in 10% of the water, and you can eliminate a lot of that water really quickly, that 90% that you want to get rid of.
So explain to somebody how exactly you do that. Say you're reading a certain part of the lake, and let's just say you're in an old school map, a whole fold out map. I mean, they've got the contour lines and all that. How are you using it? Are you saying, okay, I'm catching fish in 10 foot?
That's so there's going to be an index line on your contour map, and it's going to tell you, it's going to have a number, and it'll generally say 10, for example.
Right.
And then when you're looking at a lake map, that index line is going to represent the number of feet below full pool level that line represents.
Right.
So if you see a 10, that's 10 feet below full pull.
Full pull
is where that line is at.
Okay.
And if you have like 1 foot contour levels and a 10-foot index level, you'll have a 10, and then you'll have 10 lines, and each line represents 1 foot.
1 foot, okay.
Deeper, deeper, deeper. And then you can find flats, you can find points, you can find humps, you can find drop-offs. Yeah, whatever you're looking for, you can find. You just have to understand you're looking at a 2D representation of something that's 3D.
Right. And so, and I bet a big mistake a lot of people don't realize when looking at that is full pull.
At full pull.
Yeah. So if a lake's down 3 feet, you got to be able to adjust your math.
Correct.
Like that. But still, even with that, as simple as that seems to me, a lot of people are confused by it. And I guess that maybe it's the ease of the fish find the sonars and stuff like that. But what little tricks can you kind of give to help somebody out, or some simple tools when they're reading a map if they want to go old school?
If they're reading their map, let's say, because most people don't have a paper map anymore. Most people are running some sort of a GPS-based mapping system, and you can get one for nowadays essentially pennies compared to what it used to cost.
Right.
And the quality is going to be exponentially better. So zoom out. And then when you zoom out, you start to be able to see where the lines are. It's very easy to determine where the lines are real close together and where they're real far apart. And it's almost like, remember those old paintings that you'd stare out and all of a sudden they turn into a 3D figure?
Yes, I do.
If you zoom out on those maps, it's easier to get. You lose some of the clutter.
Yes.
And you start to see shades, like dark shades, light shades, and then you can, and then, okay, so this is what a hill looks like. This is what this looks like.
Right.
And it is a little difficult for some people that they just can't visualize what's going on. But it's the same exact thing as reading a topographical map above ground. It's just underwater.
Right.
But it's the same thing. If you know what a mountain looks like on a normal map, then you know what a hilltop looks like on a lake map.
Right.
There's no difference. It's just covered in water.
How do fish relate to the structure? Like right now, what are you looking for? I know we talked about ditches. So let's just say you're looking at your map or however you're looking at it. You know nothing about a lake. Let's say you're on a lake you've never been on, but the ditch bite's been going on the lakes you've been fishing. And you open up a map or whatever, and you're looking at the topography. What are you looking for right now?
So let me simplify it a little bit, because ditches mean an awful lot of things.
They do.
A lot of
it's
people.
a very general term.
It's extremely broad.
Yes.
A ditch, if you want to get the technical term for a ditch as it relates to map reading, it is a draw.
Okay. All right.
So what you're going to look for, and I don't know, I think Ryan mentioned anything that's a creek channel, and to some extent that's true too, but let's just look at it as draws, because that's the majority of what. Some are long, some are short, some are wide, some are narrow. But they all start deep, in shallow. They all have ground that slopes up on basically 3 sides. So at the long axis of it, at the very back of it is going to get shallow, and then up both sides is going to get shallow.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to the bank. Ditches don't have to end in the bank.
See, I want to stop you there, because of all the people that have talked about ditches, whether it's been on our other shows or even just in the store and everything, they all start at what you just called the axis. They start at the shallow, and they describe it coming back to the deep. You described it from the deep going to the shallow.
Correct.
And so that was a difference. And is there a reason for that?
Well, look at your map.
Yeah.
When you're going to look for U's or V's, and that U or V will always point to the shallow side.
Okay.
Because it's just the way the contour lines go.
Right.
All right. Specifically on your sharp ditches, it's going to be a V.
Okay.
And the bottom of that V, imagine turning a V upside down, and the tip of that V is pointing towards the shallow.
Yes.
And then that's what you're looking for. When you find that, and then you'll find a series of them, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, and it'll just, it may go from a V into a U.
Right.
But the bottom is always pointing towards shallow water. Shallower water, I should say.
And is that I just picked up on it when you said that. Like I said, because I've heard a million people talk about ditches. They always start at the back and work towards the deep. But I noticed you went deep to that. Is that from the training? Is that how they taught you to read things?
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Or is that just something you just picked up?
No, that's from 20 years of reading a topographical map, and not wanting to get lost in the woods for
absolutely. So
hours
I find that interesting. So the proper way is deep to shallow. If you're going proper by training.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go look at them and I don't think there's you can do either one. It doesn't matter. But
that's how you're trained to do.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way my brain, when I see a map, that's the way I process it.
I got it. I just thought that was interesting, and I like that. What do you look right now to stay away from? Like, what kind of water right now are you staying away from?
You know, I'm not doing really anything on the main lake right now. I'm fishing almost entirely either up the rivers or in the creeks. I'm not fishing anything on the main lake right now.
Yeah, you think they're stacked up and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, they could be there. I'm just not.
At what point does the main lake come into play? When you get into the topwater?
Yeah, when I get into summertime. Well, even May. I mean, because they're going to spawn later on the main lake than they do anywhere else.
Right.
So when I'm chasing the spawn, I'm going to start up the rivers, and then I'm going to kind of follow it as it comes south.
Right.
It's easy to catch fish. I love to catch fish. I'm going to go where the fish are biting.
Exactly.
I'm not going to fight with fish that are still in a pre-spawn funk down south when I can go up north and go spank their hind ends.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's how I'm going to do it. And then the reverse happens in the fall. So, the topwater bite's going to last longer on the main lake, and the water's going to cool slower.
Right.
It's going to warm slower than it is up the creeks and in the arms and everything else.
Yeah. Let's circle back to that topwater bite. I know you talked about a gunfish. Your second favorite, if it ain't working, what's your next topwater?
Chugbug.
Chugbug.
The medium one.
Okay.
Not the huge, not the saltwater, not the tiny, the medium.
Any particular color?
No. I mean,
just anything.
If the sun's shining, it better be shiny. If the sun's not shining, it needs to have some dullness to it.
Now, we're in bait casters now, so you're throwing this on bait casters.
I do. I throw my chug bug on you're not going to believe this. I throw my chug bugs on a 20-year-old St. Croix Premier 6.6 medium light.
Right.
And it will launch it from here to Kansas. And don't tell me it won't play a fish, because I've pulled stripers that are 10+ pounds to the boat with that rod.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hilarious. It bends from the reel seat to the tip.
What mistake or advice can you give somebody as far as throwing topwater on Lanier? Maybe something they should do better or something they should do less of? Like a mistake you see a lot of people making. Maybe a client gets in the boat with you or something like that.
When a fish strikes, don't stop doing what you're doing. And I think one of the hardest things for people that haven't fished Lanier is to understand. There's only 2 times where you really set a hook on a bait on Lanier, at least that I do.
Right.
There's 2 times I'll try to cross a fish's eyes.
Okay.
Topwater's not one of them.
Gotcha.
So until I feel the rod load up, I'm going to keep doing whatever I was doing.
So you're talking about as far as the motion you were doing?
Whatever motion I'm doing, until my rod loads up and I feel something starting to pull from drag, I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care what is going on out there in front of me.
Right.
If I'm walking, I'm going to keep trying to walk it. If I'm just working it fast, trying to skid it across, I'm going to keep trying to skid it across the top.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm doing, I'm going to try to keep the exact same thing until it loads up.
Right.
And then I'll start fighting the fish.
Do you find that a lot of your clients make that mistake?
Oh, yeah. They jerk it right out of their mouth.
Yeah. How hard is it to tell a client, hey, just keep working it, and for them to actually pick it up and do it? Do they get it, or some of them never get it?
Yeah, some of them get it. Some of them, I mean, it's human nature. I mean, it took me years to figure it out. And I still get excited and get lazy and try to jerk it when I'm just, it's going crazy. And I have to even remind myself, and I've been, fishing these little rascals since 2008.
Right.
So it's not an easy. You have to be cognizant of it, even after doing it for years and years. I mean, you can get lazy and want to snatch it out of.
Oh, I know. Yeah, you just want to absolutely do it. You want to hammer them. Let's say the topwater bite's not going on a particular day on Lanier or any of our highland reservoirs, clear water reservoirs around Georgia and Tennessee and all that.
In the summertime?
Yeah, let's just say for some reason it's not going. What's your secondary?
I'll throw a jig in the brush piles.
Jig in the brush pile.
In the brush pile.
Right. So you're going after them.
I'm going. Well, I'm coming to knock you in the head.
Right. So you're going from the top of the water column to the bottom.
Yeah. Unless if I see them suspended, then I may do something else.
Yeah.
But if they're in the brush, if the sun is out, it's shining, the fish are oriented towards the brush. Out comes the jig. And
how do you work your jig? Are you a hopper? Are you a dragger?
No, I'm more of a dragger. I'll hop some, but I generally drag, pull it up and over.
You all right? Ever throw a swim jig?
No.
Okay, so you're not a swim jig guy like that.
Not a swim jig guy.
Your head style on your jig, you like the archies? You like a brush style football? What do we,
Archie.
So you're an archie guy.
I don't overthink it.
Right.
I don't overthink it.
Well, a lot of people do. I get that.
Yeah.
So keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. Get something you have some confidence in and roll with it.
Gotcha. How long will this topwater and / jig bite go as far as, months of the year? You going to be with it all summer?
I used to fish a jig. A jig used to stay on my boat 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably catch fish on a jig on this lake 12 months out of the year.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do. I found some other ways to catch them that are a little bit speedier, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a jig is a staple. If you can't fish a jig on this lake, you're hamstringing yourself.
Right.
Topwater can go. I mean, it'll start in April, and it can go all the way until the water drops below 55. So, like this year, like I said, I caught fish on top on December 18th.
Right. So going in, that is, and again, Lanier and several of the other area lakes are like that, where you can get that topwater bite. But at what point do you start transitioning into a fall type pattern? Is it water temperature? Is it length of days?
Yeah, no, it's more water temperature and just overall activity on the lake. When I stop seeing schooling, then I'm going to start like, these fish doing something,
right.
And then you start to see the signs of a turnover and
yeah. How do you think a turnover
like
affects the lake?
Well, the good thing is that the entire lake doesn't turn over at the same time
because it's so big.
Well, it's so big, and then it varies in depth, and then it's just you got water flowing in here, water flowing out there. I mean, you can go find clean water. You just have to look for it. When I found is when the lake was turning over this year. When I caught fish in water that was turning over, they were absurdly shallow.
Okay, absurdly shallow.
Yeah, when I mean absurd, I mean less than 5 feet. I mean they were up in the skinny water.
Right.
And they were up in the skinny water and some with relatively deep water very nearby. They just pushed up.
Right.
Excuse me. Those are the ones I could get to bite. But I try to. I think I'm going to deer hunt during the turnover in the future.
Yeah, right. I got you.
It's just I'm just not.
Just gotta have a break.
If I'm going to take a break, now's a good time to take the break. The lake's turning over and whitetails are chasing. See you later.
Yeah, I'm all for the deer hunting too. I get that. So I noticed you like the deer hunt in Missouri.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere in the Midwest.
What is it about the Midwest deer hunting that you like better than here?
Have you ever hunted in the Midwest?
No, listen, I got to hunt Illinois. Listen, my hunting experience, I went to Illinois a few times, and that is a different world up there. It's amazing.
It's a different world. I mean, so one of the easiest things I can say is, in Georgia, unless there are some phenomenal tracts of land in Georgia. Don't get me wrong. There's some phenomenal deer hunting in Georgia. But a lot of times in Georgia, when you see the deer for the morning, that's your deer for the morning.
Yes, you're right.
You go to the Midwest, it ain't working that way. I mean, it does some days.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I watched deer nonstop almost for 5 hours in the woods. I was not in a field. I was in the woods.
Right.
And it was like every 20 or 30 minutes, something was walking by somewhere, from daylight till noon.
Right. So the activity is.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you see like a different level of rutting activity.
Yes, I think that's something I agree with.
It's just different. I mean, it's a different subspecies of deer.
Yeah, that is something that I think unless you're in a certain places in Georgia, we kind of miss what we see, on the TV shows like Real Tree and all that when they go out today. It is, it seems like it's a lot more intense.
Well, and some of those places are in so you can't really take that for truth.
Right.
Because that's not a true representation of what it is. I mean, there's not a 150 around every corner.
Yeah,
in the Midwest.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
There's not. You know, I mean, but the odds of a 150 being there are higher than what they are here. And you may see one. I mean, I saw one this year that was probably 160, but he never got closer than 700 yards. But I could tell from, 800 plus. I was like, good Lord.
I'm going to ask you this question. Are you bow hunting or are you gun hunting?
Yes.
Both.
I prefer to bow, but when rifle season rolls around.
So I'm getting ready to think you just said 800 yards.
I'm not shooting a deer at 800 yards.
Okay, but you have the ability to.
If I wanted to,
Yeah.
But I don't have my hunting rifle set up like that.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
No, it's not.
Not you. I get that.
Not me.
So I mean, you see people shooting 600-700 yards at animals like that. It's a lot of risk involved if you're not really good.
Yeah, I would never advocate that for the average person.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I have problems at 100 yards, much less.
Yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
I don't necessarily. I mean, I think you're starting to get into you're getting to a point to where you're starting to flirt with some of the fair chase stuff when you get too far with some of the crazy technology that exists now.
I get that. So, I understand that.
You know, and the technology that's on the horizon is ridiculous. So
right.
But the same thing goes for archery too, though. You know, I mean, you're flirting with the fair chase with an archery that has an automatic rangefinder / digital adjustment for yardage and everything else. Like, come on, man. Like,
yeah, it's almost taking the sport out of the sport.
Right.
And so we can transition that back into fishing. What do you think about sonars these days with the lives and the live scopes? I mean, all that, the Garmin's, and
you still got to catch the fish.
You don't think that takes a little bit out of it, though?
No, it definitely.
Opinions go both ways on this.
Yeah, no, and I can see the argument both ways.
Yeah.
But the arguments that will be made against it are the same arguments that they made against a flasher and a papergraph 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
There's no difference. And here's the thing about like the live sonar.
Right.
The live sonar can hurt you just as fast as it can help you.
And how is that?
Because you will get fascinated on a fish and you will sit there and waste time and minutes and cast on fish that aren't going to eat. Right. They're not going to eat.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you throw out there. Right. They're not eating, period. But you can be like, I can see them, I can catch. Nope. Right. Not on this lake.
You see it a lot where the guys are just looking down the entire day.
Yeah, I think the best fishermen are the guys who still have a natural intuition and can merge that with technology. Not the guys who rely solely on one or the other. You have to be able to merge intuition with technology to be at the top of your game right now.
I got you. And that's probably lacking, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think people, I think some people want to they want to stick with the old or they want to stick with the new and forget the old or vice versa. You gotta merge both, in my opinion. You have to maximize both because there is something to be said about your natural gut instinct of like, this isn't working.
Right.
Yes, I can see fish. They're not wanting what I'm going. I'm going somewhere else.
Right.
So, but at the same token, you can't rely completely on your gut and just flying blind. I mean, that's just as both ways are equally as harmful.
Gotcha.
I should say, if you rely solely on one or the other.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense. In as far as the business aspect, when you have a client, I figure you probably know kind of ahead of time where you're going, but you use your electronics to kind of maximize, hey, okay, the fish are here, or do you use more of a gut, like the fish are going to be at this area?
It depends on the time of the year. In the summer, I'm going to be more heavily relied on electronics. Right now, I'll use them to confirm deny what I think.
So you're merging them. You confirm your gut feeling right now. It might flip in the summertime.
Right. And now I get a lot of clients that want to, how do you interpret your graphs and how do you set them up and how do you, look at this and what does this mean and what does that mean? And there's some different schools of thought on that. And the way I approach a client is you're in the boat with me for 8 hours or 4 hours, half or a full day trip. I'm going to impart as much information as I possibly can divulge in that 8 hour time as I possibly can. And I don't care what you want to learn. I will sit here. I mean, whatever you want me to teach you for the course of that day, we'll figure something out.
Right.
It might not be the best way to catch fish, but if you're like, hey, I can't get you booked in the summer, but I want to know how you catch fish in the summer. And I've had a guy do this. I want to go spend 2 hours and look at summer places.
And it's in the wintertime.
It was 35 degrees outside.
Right.
We rode around and looked at summer places.
Yeah. But that's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted. And I'm like, this is what you can come do in these places in the summertime, X, Y, and Z.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's part. He's paying money. That makes sense.
That's what the guy wanted.
Do you ever find that clients? Do you ever get the clients that's just unteachable? That
No, not yet.
Have you been blessed so far? Then
yeah, I've been pretty blessed. And I would say the other thing too is, I spent almost half my career as an instructor in the military. So I have taught some of the brightest minds this country has to offer
And
well, let's just say we're not all cut out to be rocket scientists.
Right. I got that.
So I've learned ways to deal with a wide range of personalities, a wide range of people, and learned how to communicate things in different ways and teach and coach in different ways.
Right. What do you think, what is something that somebody, let's just say they're gonna book with you, are there things that the customer can do ahead of time, or that you wish that they would do ahead of time that would help ease the transition into the boat? Or do they make any mistakes? They bring too much of this, too much of that, their own rods, stuff like that, they're not set up, or what do they do?
I'm going to reach out and I'm going to be like, this is probably what we're going to do. I'm going to ask what their expectations are, what they want to do. Is there something they want to focus on, an area they want to focus on,
right?
Stuff of that nature. I would say if you have rods you're comfortable with throwing the techniques that I'm saying we're most likely going to do, by all means bring them. Because I can see a bait caster setup for me is not going to be a bait caster setup for you.
Right.
You know what a shaky head bite feels like on your rod. You don't know what it feels like on my rod. You know what, a jig bite feels like on your rod, or you know how to throw Topwater X or get it to work. If you are comfortable with your stuff, by all means, bring 4 or 5 rods. That's fine. If there's 2 of you in the boat, then bring 2 or 3 apiece.
Right. Yeah.
I have room for 52 rods on the boat.
Right.
We can work with it, but I would say that's an important, and it builds confidence in your own equipment.
Right.
By the same token, if you want to, use by all means, that's why I have it. I got probably almost 2 or 3 of everything now.
Yeah.
So, and this is what I use, this is why I use it, and this is why I like about it. And I'm pretty sure I've probably cost some people some money with some rods over the last 2 months.
Yeah, I got you. No, I got you.
Which is not good because I can't find those, so.
I understand.
But anyway, it is what it is. So I would say that, I can sit here and tell you to have confidence in something, but if you don't have confidence in it, you're not going to have confidence in it. If you've got a whiz-bang worm that you are super confident in, and we're going to be throwing a shaky head, then bring your whiz-bang worm.
Yeah, that makes sense. We were kind of, before we started recording, we were talking about people breaking off, And, I just liked your reaction to it. Give us a couple of examples of that. Just, you don't have to drop names, but you said people, it's the way they fight fish and stuff like that.
I mean,
what are they doing wrong?
I think, and I'm guilty of it, and I think anybody who gets on a good bite and the fish are biting like it's going in style is guilty of this, is you don't retie enough. Especially when you're throwing a 6 or an 8 pound test leader.
Yes.
On a spinning rod, you ain't got a whole lot of wiggle room there.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot of fray, and you're halfway through.
Right.
People don't retie enough, and then the other thing is people want to, samurai sword hook set, swing for the fences on everything, and I was like, whoa, guy, you got some light line here.
Yeah, especially on light line. Yeah,
you ain't got to be. I mean, you're not trying to cross their eyeballs here. You got a thin light wire hook. It does not require a samurai sword hook set on these fish.
Right.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
With the modern equipment that we have today, and then their drags are too loose or too tight. They want to horse them across the top. You're not horsing a 5 pound spot anywhere.
Right.
Not happening.
Right. I agree.
So might as well learn how to play them, because you're not going to horse him. And if you're throwing your sweet bait in the summertime and a 15 pound striper hits it, guess what you're not doing? You're not horsing them.
Yeah.
So have the equipment to play them and wear them out, get your bait back, and turn the fish loose and get on with your day.
Yeah. Do you tell people beforehand when you talk to them, do they say, what kind of equipment? Do you ever ask them what kind of equipment you got? What are you bringing? And if it's something that is not going to work, are you the kind of say, hey, listen, man, you might not want to bring that?
No, I'll be like, hey, what do you want to focus on? And then this is what I'm currently catching them on. So whatever you feel comfortable with, throwing that. And then I've had some people that brought some, rods, and I would see that it's not really working for the type bait. And I'm like, hey, why don't we try this or something like that? And here's the reason why try this and let me know what you think. And then here's what this rod, or the action of this rod, it has really little to do with the brand and more to do with the action.
Right.
Over what you were trying to throw it on.
Yeah. You ever get any blowback from that?
No.
From customers? Not yet?
No, not yet.
Have you had that customer yet? And you know what I mean by that customer?
No, I've been extremely fortunate.
That's good.
Extremely, extremely fortunate with all the clients I've had.
Yeah. How would you handle that? I'm just curious from a guide point of view. Guys paying you a lot of money, and let's just say he's a total jerk. Do you correct him, or do you just have to basically say he's a paying customer? The customer's always right.
No, he's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to
Right. I got you.
Hey, guy. I'm not gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. Customer service is a lot. You have to do that.
I mean, but if you're completely confident, set on something, I may, volunteer, nicely to say, hey, have you considered X or have you considered Y? Because, well, that's what I'm there to do is teach, and that's how you teach. But also a key to teaching is, all right, you think your way is going to work?
Let them learn.
Let it go.
Let them learn on their own.
And then, why am I not catching fish and you are, or vice versa, then...
Yeah. I got it. How much joy fishing do you get to do? When I say joy fishing, I'm talking about while you're not working, just you out fishing. Do you get to do that quite often?
If I'm not booked, yes.
Yeah.
So,
which is probably pretty busy.
Yeah, and I'm getting busier, but part of the work ethic, you mentioned earlier, if I don't have a trip booked and I don't have like something to do today, like be here.
Right. Yeah. Sorry if I've taken you away from the lake.
No, you're good. The wind was howling this morning.
It is a little
windy. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I wasn't upset. Or, something with my kid.
Right.
And I'm in the state of Georgia. I feel guilty if I'm not on the water.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I owe it to the future clients for me to fish.
Okay. All right. I understand that.
So if I book one trip in a week, for example, but I've got 5 days out of that 7 where, I don't have a doctor's appointment. I don't have to be here. I don't have to go do, business errands or whatever.
Right.
Then I'm on the water at least 4 hours.
Okay. But you're treating it as work.
I always treat it as work now. There is I'd say the only quote unquote true fun fishing I do is maybe when I go pond fishing out in Missouri.
That is fun though. I don't care what anybody says.
It's
still my favorite way to fish.
But it's still work because I'm still tweaking or learning or figuring out or trying something. So it's not like there is no such thing as non-work fishing anymore.
I understand, but you at least are able to enjoy it because you enjoy your work.
I enjoy it every day.
Yeah, so that helps. That helps a lot.
Oh, it does. I mean,
I can see it going as work, but you got to like it.
Oh, I do. And I had, I broke off this. Yes, I broke a fish off.
Yeah, there we go.
I broke a fish off yesterday.
Yeah.
It was the first fish that I broke off since October.
Okay.
And I have fished 20 plus days a month since October.
Right.
I wanted to cry.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking a big fish. It was just one where I had gotten lazy and didn't retie my shaky head. I got about halfway to the boat and he broke off. But I was just like completely...
Mm-hmm.
You would have thought I hadn't fished in 6 months. And that was the first fish I've had on my line in 6 months.
Devastated.
I'm devastated. And I fish every day.
Right.
So, if I miss a fish, if a fish bites and misses, I just...
You're intense.
I feel like I just got, beat on or something. I'm like, this is just wrong, and I'm like, when it stops being that exciting, then I probably need to go find another line of work.
I got you. So you kind of treat it like, and we always talk about like deer hunting that way. If when you see a deer, the heart doesn't get, if you don't get excited, then it's no fun.
Yeah, no, I still absolutely. And then it doesn't matter if the guy in the back of the boat's getting bit all the time, and I'm just as tickled.
Yeah. Or
more tickled actually now.
Right.
And then there's nothing really more enjoyable than getting a message, a few days later, a week later, whatever. Hey man, I just went out and did X, Y, and Z. Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than that.
I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. One of the problems that I see, especially on our social media and stuff like that, is that you have a few guys who are willing to teach, share what they're catching them on, stuff like that. But when you get into these tournament guys, especially the local, I understand the pros. We've got hundreds of $1,000s online. But a lot of these weekend tournament anglers are so unwilling to help others that it's just kind of, to me, it just seems like it's kind of a shame. Do you look at it that way? I realize, I'm not saying you don't have to give people your specific spots, but it seems like a lot of them are far less willing to help out the community than others.
Yeah, well, I mean, that applies, and sadly, it applies in all types of fishing. It's not just here. I mean, that's everywhere. You know, and you get people that are extremely protective of X, Y, and Z, and you know, that's just who they are.
Yeah.
And the same thing is in, you know, the hunting community, and then people riding each other's hind ends because they shot a 130-inch deer and didn't let it grow to 160.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We don't need to be bickering with each other. We got enough outside things to worry about, you know, to keep sports going.
Yeah.
It's just different. If I do my job right, I'll be out of a job in 10 years.
And how do you mean?
That means there'll be somebody else that has pushed me out of a job because they have learned.
Right. Gotcha.
They have learned. And I think that applies for almost, if you do your job correctly as a leader.
As a leader, that's the important part.
As the important part.
Right.
And, as someone who represents a community in a thing and something that you're doing, you will work yourself out of a job.
Because you will have created other leaders to come behind you.
You will have created exactly. You have fostered the generation behind you.
And I think that's what we're missing. I think that's kind of my point, that a lot of guys, a lot of knowledgeable guys will not take up that leadership role and teach the next one because it's more selfish.
I've never been there's people who believe that information is power.
Yeah.
And they refuse to give out any information because I know something that you don't know, so therefore I'm higher on the totem pole than you.
Right.
I've never bought into that. I think some of that just goes with, it's basically my life experiences, but I think that can be dangerous. I just don't. To me, there's nothing more enjoyable than seeing somebody who you've taught, coached, teach, mentored be very successful in the same thing that you caused, you helped them with. I mean, that is like the ultimate,
or it should be.
For me, that is the ultimate success story.
Yeah.
So, that's just kind of how I roll, because I'm going to keep moving and growing, and things are going to change. So,
you think that's a little bit of that military influence, the brotherhood kind of thing?
Yeah, it might be, but there's guys in the military too that they're like hoarders of information, and they keep everything. Oh, I'm good because I know this. Well, that's a nice guy, whatever.
Right.
Right.
But I like how you brought in the leadership aspect of it, because it is it's something that we're definitely lacking, especially on the adult male side in this world, is actually true leaders. And it goes to the fishing community and all that kind of stuff. Be willing to step up and teach, and be willing to be worked out of a job. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I think a lot of people aren't doing that. What would be something that you might, some wisdom you might impart on somebody who's listening and they're kind of on the fence? Maybe they haven't done as good a job leading or sharing information, teaching others. Maybe a little bit of wisdom you can kind of throw their way from all of your experiences.
Enjoy the success of others.
Be willing to enjoy the success of others.
Yeah. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like getting a phone call that says, "Hey man, thanks for X, I've accomplished Y." Or seeing someone that who struggled, and I mean struggled, that all of a sudden is extremely successful. Mm-hmm. And that you influenced that individual on making the turn and figuring something out and cracking some code and it doesn't matter if it's fishing related or life related or it really does not matter. Mm-hmm. Business, work, whatever.
Right.
Every day that goes by, there's somebody coming behind you.
Yeah.
So, if you care about something and try to influence the group behind you, if you care the direction that a sport or a company or a hobby or whatever, pick a topic. If you care about the direction that topic is going, mm-hmm. then care enough to influence the generation behind you.
And I think that's a big thing in the angling community right now with the high school, because it's blowing up and everybody's got high school teams and mm-hmm. stuff like that. You'll hear a lot of comments about the etiquette not being where it should in the high school, guys not knowing exactly what to do, and maybe that's influenced by their boat captains because their boat captains are adults and stuff. So we might be missing some of that leadership in those areas, where people could step up and help kind of maybe even lead the adults who are leading these kids,
Yeah. I mean, and there's no difference in that in a lot of high school sports and collegiate sports. I mean, it's really, it's a cutthroat thing, and I think almost as a society, we kind of need to take a step back and do some self-reflection as far as, what's really important, what's really, what is the most important thing that we're teaching here? Is the most important thing getting this kid a scholarship, or is the most important thing building this individual into a better adult? And teaching them lessons to be a better, productive member of society down the road. So, that's important.
Yeah, and I think it's lacking. I think we need to all do a little bit better job. If somebody wanted to book a trip with you, how would they get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably through my Facebook page.
Okay. So, is that just Jeff Nail, or?
It's my J2 on Lanier.
Okay, J2 on Lanier.
Yeah, J2 on Lanier. You can also go through Jimbo's website, and you can book me directly through him also. So you can get a hold of me through my Facebook page, or get a hold of him through his website. Yeah, and that's the best way. That's the best way.
Well, I want to say this. First of all, I want to thank you for your service to our country and what you've done. Again, I'm impressed. I know we probably could spend 8, 9, 10 hours talking about it if we wanted to, but just, again, looking at what you've done and how much time, and like you said, sacrifice. You had to do a lot of sacrificing and others just for to serve our country on that. So first of all, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
For you that. I don't think you guys get near enough thanks that you should. So I just want to let you know that we appreciate that and are impressed with that. And again, the fishing knowledge, a lot of it, common sense stuff that you're saying, that we're overthinking it and stuff like that. I really think you did a good job of explaining it. If somebody wanted to take a trip with you and to learn more about the topography, they could do that, to learn how to read the lake maps and stuff like that. Okay, I highly recommend that. But I just want to thank you for coming down today. We got you off the lake long enough to come down here, and I hope, a lot of success comes your way in the business. But, man, I just want to thank you for taking the time, and I appreciate it. Anytime somebody's willing to come down here and talk to me,
I appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate that. So, with that, I'm going to let you get back to going fishing and all that. So I just want to thank you very much for coming down today.
Well, thank you. I do have one thing.
Absolutely.
I want to do
Go
a
ahead.
selfish plug for myself.
Absolutely.
So everyone who goes on a trip with me between now and April 30th is going to be entered to win what I considered probably one of the most versatile casting rods for Lake Lanier.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the exact model because it's in the middle of a changeover right now. But it'll be that or the equivalent of, and it's right around a $300 value. So I don't want to put the model out there quite yet because I'm waiting for them to release the new new models that are supposedly coming out here in about a month. But yes, so and everybody who's on the boat with me between now and April 30th will be entered in that, and somebody's going home with a new $300
That's
rod.
awesome. So you guys definitely need to take advantage of that. Again, go to Facebook, J2 on Lanier, or through Jimbo's on Lanier's website. You guys book a trip with this cat. He's a cool dude, and I'm sure y'all can talk about stories all you want like that, but I think you'll learn it and you'll have a good time with you. So again, I appreciate you coming down here, man, and I wish you the best of success.
Great, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, man.
Yes, sir.
Guys, we appreciate you joining us for this episode of the Fish North Georgia podcast. Make sure you check us out on any of your podcast platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit that icon so you'll be notified of any future content. Every Thursday night, check us out on the live well on YouTube, where we have a live show where you can comment in the section so we can interact with you personally. Make sure you give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram at Fish North Georgia, and we'll see you later.